Today it's match day, Juve Milan, the last one before the international break, and what a game full of history. The 245th time that we play the Rossoneri in all competition. Today will be the 213th time that we play against the Rossoneri in Serie A. The moment the advantage is for Juve, and after the game of today, the advantage of victory will still be for the Bianconeri, but today is an isolated game, and it's a fundamental one, and that's what we will speak about in today's video. Ciao Juventini of the world, my name is Giuseppe, welcome back on the channel. I hope you're all doing well. If you didn't yet and you want to start your Sunday in the perfect way, and if you want to make me happy, of course, don't forget to put a maximum of like, continue to subscribe to the channel, because we start, and yesterday we started actually the day with a leak that has been immediately deleted, the one of Pedro Felipe, that is sharing simultaneously a good news and a bad news. The good news is that he will be called up for the very first time with the first team of Juventus. The bad news is that, by consequence, Bremer is not making it to the squad list of today. He will not be on the field. He will not even be on the bench, and that's really a bad news. About Pedro Felipe, before speaking about the formations, the predicted lineup, the history of the game, who is risking the most? Well, speaking about Pedro Felipe, I read a lot of enthusiasm, but I also read some toxicity, some negativity around the name. What is the enthusiasm speaking about? Well, the enthusiasm is from some Juventini that are saying, oh, play him immediately. If Bremer is not doing it, well, we already have the next Bremer, that is Pedro Felipe, Brazilian like him, etc., etc. He's already part of Juve. Let them grow, let them pay immediately, play the risk. Don't play with, for example, Rugani or with Gatti Kalulu there in the middle of the defense. Play him immediately. Calma. I don't know if you are watching the next-gen games. A lot of people that are commenting are not watching a single minute, except of highlights, like, for example, 2-3 weeks ago, with that winning goal of Pedro Felipe. Super enthusiasm. Play him. Calma. It's a player that probably would have already been part of the first team if it was not for exactly the same injury as Bremer at exactly the same moment, an ACL of last season that actually slowed down his growth process. It's a player that is starting really well this season, but pay attention, a player that is still committing some defensive mistakes if you are watching the next gen game. So is he ready to be a starter at Juve? According to me, at today, no. Is it beautiful to see him being called up? Absolutely yes, because he's deserving it, and because I see some potential in the player. Potential doesn't mean 100% ready. Calma. The negativity that I'm reading is a lot of people that are seeing that like, oh, another player that we are putting there in the window, ready to sell at the end of the season, like it happened for a lot of players like Dean Huijsen, like Muharemovic, with already twice man of the match with Sassuolo, or like, for example, Conny de Winter that will be our opponent this evening with Milan. Well, pay attention, guys. It's not that we are selling every single next-gen project. Look at Kenan Yildiz, a player that is not only the number 10 of Juve, but also one of the rotational captains of Juve, a player that is growing, that we have the intention not only to keep, but also to extend the contract. So everyone has his own history. You need to be at the right moment, extremely important, taking your opportunities when you have these opportunities, and also you need to be mentally extremely strong to deserve to wear the shirt of Juve. Some players are at the moment not ready. Muharemovic was not ready. He needed a complete year in Serie B with the Nero Verdi, with Sassuolo, before going to Serie A and delivering performances, but performing with Sassuolo is not the same, of course, as performing with Juventus. You see exactly the same as a Dean Huijsen that was performing extremely well with the Bournemouth, a bit more difficult with Real Madrid if we are looking at some of the games, like, for example, when he was totally cooked against Atletico Madrid. So some people, they need a bit more time to go to these huge big podium. Then did we make a mistake about Dean Huijsen? Absolutely yes. Did we made a huge big mistake with Conny de Winter? According to me, no. Pay attention, because this evening, of course, he will do the game of his life, and we will be here saying we regret it, and why did we do that? Anyway, everyone his own story. So calma about Pedro Felipe, that I don't believe that we will see here, also because we already have the predicted lineups that we will come back on in a single minute. Bremer will not make it. Thuram in extremis will make it, but the predicted lineups are not putting him in the starting 11. We know it. This game has everything to be a psychodrama. Let's not lie, we are all aware of it. The game before the international break, every single game before international break has always the same story. If you win, Bravo, good. And we have 2 beautiful weeks ahead to prepare the next series of games. And we are here with some positivity. In the other side, if you draw or if you lose, you have a hell of a 2 weeks. Not only us, the fans, but also there in La Continassa. 3+1 draws in a row, because it's 3 in Serie A, +1 in Champions League. It's never a good news when you are called Juventus Football Club. It's a total disaster. Going with a 5th game in a row where you don't win would be a hell of a bad news. A -1 in Serie A that could potentially become, if you don't win, a -4, and there you start seeing a gap that is growing. The lack of trust in the team, the lack of trust from a lot of people in the coach, the lack of trust in our style of play, in our identity, the lack of trust in physical condition, everything is set up for a psychodrama, especially with the fear of watching a Rabiot doing a top performance and maybe even scoring il gol dell'ex, like for example last week, or this week actually, in the middle of the week on Wednesday, the goal of Renato Vega. And then don't forget about the return of Max Allegri, this time on the bench of Milan, and everything what he represents, the people that are loving him, the people that are hating him. But anyway, Max Allegri can never be a guy that will not create debate, that will not create discussions. We know that. So today could potentially be a psychodrama. On the other side, if you win today, how important would it be to win today, to cancel all the bullet point that I just mentioned? Yesterday, Igor Tudor spoke about the game of today. He presented it in press conference. Before that, don't forget that yesterday I made a video that was called Tudor out with a question mark. If you want to know my opinion about it, go and watch it. But I just wanted to come back on one thing. There was a special video. It was not a news video, it was a special video, more opinions, but also a video with a lot of editing. Just one thing that I want to mention, because I saw a message and people now in 2025, maybe they don't know or they are a bit confused. There is no single use of AI in the editing. It was all written, recorded, edited by me, and all the clips, the music, the sound that you see in that video are from a paid monthly subscription where you can have a database, a stock of a lot of videos that I was researching, looking, taking, downloading, editing, and putting online. So zero use of AI for people that are asking, Beppe, were you looking for shortcuts? Or AI is not a beautiful thing. There was zero use, otherwise I would have mentioned it. That being said, what did he say yesterday, Igor Tudor, in press conference? Well, I can tell you before entering the detail that Igor hates press conference. He doesn't feel well to use that corporate talk. It's not something that he likes. He doesn't like to pay attention to every single word that he's saying, being aware that it will be written, analyzed, and sometimes even taken out of context by the journalist in first place and then by the supporters. At a certain moment, he even says, look, guys, when a player or a coach comes post-game in the interview, well, what are we saying? The obvious thing, the basic things. We are obliged to say something. So we are going with generalities, with general things. You know how it works. So confirming that these press conferences, according to him, are a bit over the top, because sometimes they are like that. They are not a real way of speaking or saying what you have to say. He really hates them. And where do you really notice this? It's at the really very end. The last question about Modric, where he starts really describing Modric in a fantastic way, speaking about him being Ballon d'Or, a one that will never be cloned or repeated for what he meant for Croatian football. The fact that he's able to play like how he's playing at 40 years old. Wow, beautiful words about Modric. And at the end, he also makes a joke about it. He says, I hope that he will play shit. And that's the only moment where you really see that he's totally sincere. There are no filters, that he smiles, that he's laughing, that he speaks from the heart, and he really feels well. This is Igor Tudor. It's a guy like you, like me, that really wants to say what is on his mind. And when does he feel comfortable? When he is allowed to say it, when he's making a joke, when he's going full power in saying what he thinks without being scared of what people will say about it. Not that he's really scared, but he doesn't like that corporate talk. And I believe, honestly, that unless we are winning the 33 winning games in Serie A plus the ones of Champions League, I don't think that we will see some drastic changes in the press conference. We'll still see a closed Tudor that is hiding himself, that is dribbling and avoiding the question, that is taking actually a closed attitude behavior in pre-game communication. Post-game is a bit different because he has that passion, because he has that heat. On top of that, he also thinks that a lot of journalists, a lot of people, they don't know a lot about football. When he's saying, for example, a lot of people, they are missing football education. He really believes that sometimes it's a waste of time. So what did he really say? I don't want to go towards all the points, but some important things. He said, of course, the victory is missing at Juve at the moment. At Juve, a draw is never enough. So super important that he's repeating and reminding also the state of mind. But of course, he says, I'm obliged to analyze the performances. We go for the result, but I analyze the performance, and I see a team that is improving. We performed well the last two games, better than our opponent. We missed really a little to win. We have a clear identity, he says, because we play the same since 6 months. If I want to give my opinion on that, probably that's one of the problems, that maybe you see an identity, but it's an identity that for us, the Juventini, are not 100% convincing us, especially if you come from 4 games in a row where you are drawing and not winning, and we still play the same in the last 6 months. Is probably also problematic because we know that this team probably changing little the formation could perform because we will never know a bit better. He says we are not perfect because we are doing the things what I'm asking, but we are not able to keep them for 90 minutes. We miss someone, and pay attention, that's an important one. We miss someone that is sometimes taking responsibility, like the goal that we concede against Villarreal, that 2-2. Someone is saying, it's my ball, I take it, I take the man, because probably if we would have someone like that on the field that would have said it, maybe if we have 3-4 players like that are saying it's my, probably that goal would be totally avoided. We have some weaknesses, and sometimes these weaknesses are hidden, sometimes these weaknesses are exposed, but look, we play against Inter, Dortmund, Atalanta, Villarreal, now we are playing against Milan, all Champions League clubs. And on that one is totally correct. I think that is also pointing out on the strange calendars. And pay attention, I don't want to use them today. I want to send you back to when we commented the calendar draws. Do you remember we said how difficult the beginning of the season would be? And if you are comparing our games with the game, for example, of Inter, that a lot of people, they cancelled after the 2-3 first games of Serie A, I told you pay attention to Inter. Don't cancel them. At the moment they have, with one more game played, they have 1 point more than Juve with 12 on 6 games, 12 on 18. But if you are looking at their way, Torino to start, Udinese to follow, then Juve, a big game, Ajax, Sassuolo, Cagliari, Slavia Praga, and Cremonese, I believe that on paper is a little easier than Parma, Genoa, and then Inter, Dortmund, Verona, Atalanta, Villarreal, and now Milan. I think he's totally correct in reminding that to people. And then he speaks also and repeats about that lack of leadership, managing moments. He says, what Locatelli said after the draw against Villarreal, he said, look, if we had 4, 5, 30 years old players, well, probably we could have managed the games a bit more easy. How will we play? According to Giovanni Albanese, that the 10 on 11 is right with the starting lineup. Well, yesterday evening he told us Di Gregorio will go back taking the number 1 position with the number 16 on the back, but the number 1 position of the field, so no rotation with Perin there. Gatti, Rugani, that will start his very first game this season instead of Gleison Bremer, and Kelly next to him for a 3-man defense. Kalulu as a right wing back, Locatelli, McKennie, Cambiaso, and then Conceição, Yildiz, and Jonathan Davis. Am I happy with that lineup? I tell you the truth, no, because I see still a lineup that is quite cautious. I still see some players like a Cambiaso that are not convincing me at 100%. The Kalulu as a right wing back that is maybe offering something defensively but not that much offensively. I see some things that are not 100% convincing me, like for example a Weston McKennie. Then you will tell me, there is nobody else. I know. How could that lineup convince me a bit more with the same exact men on the field if we would switch towards a 4-3-3 with Kalulu as a right back and not as a right wing back, with Kelly as a left back with the 2 center defenders, and then McKennie, Locatelli, Cambiaso in the middle of the field with Conceição, Yildiz, David, before having the subs alla Zegrova, alla Openda, alla Dusan Vlahovic, etc., etc. That would convince me a bit more on the field, but I don't believe that we will play like that. Ragazzi, fuoco Yildiz, the fire in Yildiz is what we hope to see. because today is an important game against a big team. He already scored against Milan. I was able and honored to watch that game. That we lost because it was in Supercoppa in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, where he opens the score. He was playing slightly on the right side of the field. He goes with a fantastic, beautiful shot. What a beautiful performance from our number 10. Unfortunately, we lost also first with that equalizer on penalty from Pulisic before the 2-1 loss because of a mistake, if I'm not wrong, of Di Gregorio and Gatti with that own goal. What a total disaster. But Fuoco Yildiz, can we expect a huge big performance from our number 10? It will all depend about how long he will be able to spend energies. What they already talked about with the coach. If the coach says don't manage yourself but go full power for 60 minutes, we could possibly see something there. There will be some scouts from Arsenal in the stand, so pay attention for that. But Juve is really intention to extend the contract from Yildiz to 2030 with a salary that will be tripled, and he has absolutely the intention to continue at Juve, to be the man of Juve, the one that is representing Juve, the brand of Juve representing him. So I have absolutely at the moment no fear, but of course winning today will help a lot. Ragazzi, we see each other for a pre-game, watch-along and post-game of Juventus Milan, the last one before the international break. Grazie, forza, Juve.